Hello, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Tester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want to be fired up about International Children's Book Day. I know, that is such an awesome thing to celebrate. Our theme today is The Small is Big in a Book. I love working with children, and I have two authors that I am so excited to bring to you today because, of course, they have written a children's book. My first author is Belinda Barbieri, and she's written the book Meet the Pops. Meet the Pops is a delicious family treat created to promote exemplary child behavior at home, at school, and just about anywhere. The Pops Magical Farm has lots of surprises in store for both the young and the young at heart. Chances are your little ones have never set their eyes on a flock of cotton candy sheep, nor a herd of chocolate or strawberry milk cows. Well, in Meet the Pops, it is a sweet story meant to delight and educate the family. Let me tell you a little bit more about Belinda. Belinda Barbieri temporarily stepped away from the corporate world to give life to a lovable, unique farming family. Meet the Pops is the first book in the Pops series. Barbieri's fondness of sweets stems from her childhood. She grew up in a large, loving family where special occasions led to storytelling and sweet treats. This contributed to her desire to be a children's author. Today, she is living the dream. Now, I don't know about you, but every day that we have an opportunity to live the dream is awesome. So I am so excited to share with her today. So I'm going to start off with her, and then I'll bring my other author in. So you know what I'm going to say. Get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee, get your tea, because we are about to get started. So thank you so much, Belinda, for being here on the show today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Now, I know that people have all kinds of questions when it's like, you write children's books. Why in the world would you write children's books? But I have to ask that, just like everyone else, why children's books? Why not books for teens or motivational books for adults? Why was children's books your concentration?
You know, I'm always trying to promote positive family dynamics. And when you write a children's book, you can not only teach those types of things and values and promote good behavior with the kids, but you also can let your stories and your imagination just go free and wild. And you could really present just about anything to them, and it's just so much fun laughing and giggling with little kids. I like to add a lot of humor to my book, like the hens on this magical farm. They don't lay eggs. They lay marshmallows because they're candy farmers. And I try to sneak in humor for the adults as well, because they're the ones reading the books usually to the younger kids.
Right. It's so awesome that you are mindful of the person who's reading the book, and you make it fun for everyone. And let me tell you, a hen that lays marshmallows, that would be awesome. I mean, we need our eggs too, but to have a hen that lays marshmallows, that would be awesome. I love it.
It's good when you want to make s'mores, right?
Exactly. It's like, hey, it's here. You know that you fed your hen organically, so these are organic marshmallows. That would be awesome, you know? I love it. I love it. Well, when did you first realize that you wanted to be a writer?
Well, I've always wanted to be a writer, but what really set this in motion was my sister could not make it to her son's school as a mystery reader. You might have heard of being a mystery reader. They invite relatives and family to come and read to the classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So I volunteered, and I went to the school and read to the kids, and we just had so much fun. I left there saying, I'm going to do this. And I sat in my car at the school for like a half an hour afterwards and just sat there thinking of concepts. And then I was obsessed with it. I'm driving down the road. I'm constantly thinking of concepts. And I came up with 2 solid ones and brought them back to my nephew. And I talked to him about it. One was the candy farm, because that's the draw for the kids, the candy, and they want to have fun with it, right? And then during that, you can teach them things, vocabulary, different good behaviors. So I do it in a unique way. Throughout the book, the characters are sending text messages to the kids. It's in the pages, and it's kind of a modern way for them to learn, which makes it a little more fun. And so I wound up, after those guys kind of voted on the concept, I just went freeform after that. And I joined the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. Excellent thing to do for new writers. And they have conferences. So they have conferences, and you can learn a lot at these conferences. You get to meet with other writers, and they have excellent speakers like Sonia Sotomayor. She wrote a book called Turning Pages, and she was at our last conference. She was one of the speakers, and we got to meet with her. It was wonderful.
I love it. I love that you were a reader. That is something that my mother does, and she has done it all of my adult life, and it is just really and truly, in my mind, leading by example and just giving back and sharing, your gifts and talents with the next generation and getting them fired up about reading, and it really and truly does make a difference. I know that I love to read because my mother introduced reading to me in such a way that made it fun and exciting. So thank you so much for doing that. I really think that is making a difference. Well, Belinda, if you would, though, please, I am going to tell you this time to sit back and be comfy cozy, because I'm going to take a little bit of time here, and I am going to talk to Mimi. Well, listeners, before I give the mic to mimi-soes, I want to tell you a little bit about her book and who she is. Mimi-soes is the author of The Bite book. It offers a seasoned childhood educator's view on children that bite, ways to prevent such behaviors, and encouragement for parents and teachers that they can have a little better understanding, awareness, cooperation, as well as patience that they need to have when dealing with this situation, especially in our classrooms. So about Mimi-soes. She grew up during World War II and immigrated to the United States with her husband. Her interest in education dates back as far as she can remember, as well as with her own needs as far as being a pioneer in early childhood education in Los Angeles, California. She currently resides in Toluca Lake, which is part of North Hollywood, California. And for those who are confused, North Hollywood is not Northern Hollywood, but it is its own city. As a SoCal gal myself, it is wonderful to have a fellow Californian on the line. So if you don't mind, I want you to get ready to talk a little bit to Mimi about the book, The Bite book. Thank you so much, Mimi, for being with me today.
Yes, hello.
Yes. So one of the questions that I have for you is, what is one of the number one causes? Why do children bite? What gets them fired up that they feel that they need to bite?
My front page should really say preschool bite book before I answer any questions, because it isn't just in general about biting. It's mainly I've been trying to write some factual situations that happen in preschool. So you asked me why I would write this book. Well, it's for parents to get a better understanding what happens and why the children in school have the urge to rid themselves of the frustrations. It's for so many reasons. When they are very little, and even we had infants as well, it's a lack of communication. They cannot speak yet. So they get irritated, and then, whammo, you try to defend yourself. As they get a little older, it becomes often a sibling problem. That the older one, and by parents, unfortunately, parents don't always handle it too well. You're the older, so you have to give in. Or you're the younger, or you're the middle one, instead of just saying, no, this is not the way to do it. And so they bring the habit to school, of course. If the younger one, I mean, even in just a smaller age difference, let's say you have 2s and 3s together. Well, the 2s cannot, they are still quite a bit smaller than the 3s, and the age difference begins to really show. And then what can they do? Either hit you or bite you. And it's not always the teacher's fault, because it gets to actually, certainly in California, a situation of allowing legally too many children to one teacher. And the teacher is not a miracle worker. So, you try your best to make sure that everything is calm, cool, and collected.
Absolutely.
And right under you, one of them gets upset, and whammo, there you have a bite. Then, by the time they get preschool, it is rare. However, it does happen as well, because, home situations. Before the children get to school, they often have very bad mornings. And mommy and daddy are very busy, and they expect the children to do too many things for themselves. They watch TV or whatever these days, new gadgets, and as they are ready, oh my God, you're not dressed. And so then it gets to be hectic. They get very cross already on the way to school. And then, you can even happen it in the 4-year-old class that one of them gets so frustrated that you might end up with a bite.
So it's almost time for us to go to break, and I want to make sure that everyone is able to pick up a copy of your book. So, Mimi, if you would please, can you remind everyone, what is the title of your book, and where can we get a copy?
Well, the title is Bite Book, Dear Mom and Dad. And you can get mainly through Amazon. I believe there's some bookstores that have it as well, but
Sure. And Belinda, same question for you as well. What is the title of your book, and where can we get a copy?
The title of my book is Meet the Pops, and it's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, as well as BelindaBarbieriBooks.com.
All righty, listeners. Now you know where you can pick up a copy of both of these children's books. We'll be back right after this.
Smell Good Spa, for the women who are making a conscientious change in their personal care products. Specializing in signature fragrance oils, hand-dipped incense, and wholesome bath and body and personal care products. Smell Good Spa. Use code HELLO25 for 25% off your order. Live good, feel good, smell good wholesomely. SmellGoodSpa.com.
Being with Infants by Montessori teacher trainer and world-renowned child specialist Beverly Kovach is finally on DVD and digital download. The long-awaited 3D disc set is essential for any new parent, grandparent, or infant caregiver wanting respectful relationships with infants and their care. Being with Infants is broken down into 20 easy-to-digest video lessons, complete with demonstrations. Everything from diapering, feeding, the proper way of picking up infants, sleep, crying, environment, play, weaning, and much more are covered. Being with Infants is available on DVD and digital download at Walmart, Target, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon. Order today and be sure to follow Being with Infants on Facebook for free bonus content.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Chester. We are celebrating International Children's Book Day, and the theme is The Small is Big in a Book. And what I love about that is that we're able to celebrate a child's imagination in a book. Reading can open so many doors to so many possibilities. I know that I am one of those people who learned to love to read at a very young age. My authors here today, Mimi-Soes, who's the author of The Bite book, as well as Belinda Barbieri, who's author of Meet the Pops, are both children's book authors. So I am so excited to be able to ask them the following questions. So, ladies, I want to ask you this question, and that is, what is your favorite letter of the alphabet, and why?
My favorite letter is B, and I think it's B because my mother's name is Barbara, and mine is, of course, Belinda. And I can still recall sitting with my mom when we practiced writing my name, even for the first few times, and she'd always say, we'll make bee bubbles together. So all my life, of course, bubbles are a lot of fun. That was how she added some fun to it. And I even named one of the characters in my children's book Bubbles. It's one of the cotton candy sheep whose fleece is so curly that it looks like bubbles when it blows in the wind. So it's kind of cute.
That is adorable. I love that answer. What about you, Mimi?
Well, it reminds me of when I was asked, what's your favorite color? And I never had a favorite color. I always thought there was something wrong with me because I liked all the colors. So it is, yeah, I still do, and it's a sort of the same thing with the alphabet. So if I had to choose, I would choose C for caring, and possibly D, as in David, for doing. And, yeah, that's pretty much my favorite. I could probably think of something for each one of them.
Right?
At the time.
Of course. I like that. Now, when you're thinking about writing a children's book and you're trying to get the concept, the idea, what's in your head out into an actual book form, is one of the things that you're thinking about not just what are the children going to like, but do you also think about the obstacle of the adult, of how is the adult that may purchase this book, what are they thinking?
I think before I was a writer, I was a reader, and I love to read to kids, so I'm always thinking of the reader. And one of the fun things when you're watching a movie or reading a book is when they throw in some jokes for the adults, because they might have to read that children's book 10 times. The kid might fall in love with the book, and every night they want to hear the same book. So I try to throw in some humor in my books.
For me, adults have really never been an issue. I worked with kids in it. I ran a school for over 40 years. So, I've worked with people from all walks of life, good and not so good, poor and rich. So it never entered my mind that adults would have an issue with what I am writing about. And I guess, that's pretty much it.
Now, even though, everyone is an adult, we still kind of like the things that we like that remind us of our childhood. So do you still have a favorite children's book other than your own book? Because, of course, your book is your number one book. But do you have another favorite childhood book, or a book that when you see it or someone talks about it, it brings back fond, happy memories for you?
I've always been a huge Snoopy fan. So the Peanuts, the whole series of books, I just love them. And so much so that I visited the Charles Schulz Museum and Research Center in Santa Rosa, California. And it was just wonderful to see the legacy he's left. They even had his old desk, his original desk, and it was so great with all the rich characters. It was like a miniature Disneyland. Wonderful.
And I love how, speaking of Charles Schulz, I love how he was, I'm going to say, an open-minded person for the time period, in that he wanted to have a really great representation of all children, of all potential neighborhoods as best as he could represented in Peanuts. And I just find that to be so encouraging. So everyone can kind of find a little bit of their personality in one of the characters at least. And I think that was so mindful of him. That was awesome. What about you, Mimi?
I agree, and they do. I'm sorry. They do mention that at the museum. It's terrific how he's inclusive of all children, and it really affected me when I went there and read about that. And in my books, I try to do the same thing.
It really is an opportunity to teach children at a very young age to be mindful and as inclusive as you possibly can. I mean, there's going to be situations where, sorry, it's going to be boys over here and girls over there, because that's just, how it goes. But we can try to be as inclusive as we can. I have to agree with you on that one. Now, what about you, Mimi? Do you have a favorite childhood book, or a book that you remember fondly?
Grew up during war times. There wasn't much available except for, the garden variety kind of little books. And but as I recall, as I got old enough to read enough, we had a big, huge series. It was very famous and popular, called the Karl May books, and they were all about Native American Indians, of all things. And they were, we read every one of them. And as I had a co-worker by the name of Shirley, who was a native Navajo, if you had told me as a kid I was going to meet a real Indian, oh my goodness.
You would have never thought that.
Yeah, I would have fainted. Yeah. So these are my favorite childhood books.
That is so awesome. Now, when you think about writing from a very holistic point of view, with all of the things that you have to do in the planning and the organization and all of that, is there any bit of advice that you can give, especially to our young writers that are thinking about it? They may not have put, pencil to pad or opened up their laptop to actually start creating yet, but they're in the very beginning stages. What bit of advice would you give to someone who wants to write a children's book?
I had mentioned this previously, but I definitely would join the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators and attend one of their conferences, because it's a great opportunity to meet and mingle with authors and illustrators and start networking. And they teach you how to get started on your own journey. So it's really fabulous. But you always have to remember that this is hard work. And unless you're passionate and dedicated, it's not going to work. You have to be very passionate and dedicated.
What about you, Mimi?
Well, there is so much negative and violent out there these days. As a teacher, I would say stay very positive. Children are very vulnerable. Young people are very vulnerable. And we need more on the order of goodness, positive, cool, calm, and collected.
I like that. I think that is a great bit of advice, that it is just as important for our teachers to be encouraging and to uplift the spirits of their students, because teachers really and truly do make a difference in our lives. I have a few teachers that were absolutely positively awesome out there, and I won't necessarily say any names, but Mr. Mazaitis was my science teacher. He was awesome. I remember a Mrs. Santiago. She was one of my English teachers. Oh, I loved her. She was just one of the coolest people in all the world, and just made literature fun, and so on and so forth. So you have all of these really great people that really and truly do make a difference in your world. You are so right. Now, ladies, I want to ask you, why is it important that children read? Why do people push that all the time? And I know the answer might be obvious, but in your own words, why is it so important that children read?
I think reading is a great way to learn and start to understand, what's around us, the world that we live in. I think it helps children to develop language skills and understand the meaning of different words, and it stimulates their imagination. I mean, in this digital world, perhaps we're losing the battle of using your brain power to read and do basic, even math. So I think reading is even more important as children grow older today.
What about you, Mimi?
Yes, all of the above the young lady just mentioned. I think it becomes a very personal experience, aside from the fact that you can learn about what makes the world go round, about different peoples, different things, different beliefs, different ideas, broadens your horizon of what we live in and what we are expected to deal with as well. Tends to help maturity as you go along, slowly but surely, I hope. And as to repeat, it becomes a very personal experience, depending on the different aspects that you choose at the time,
Now, the last question for you before we go to break, and that is, some people would say that it has gotten easier to be a writer in today's times. Some people would say, well, it's actually harder because it has gotten easier. How do you feel about the lifestyle or the community of being an author? Do you think that it's gotten easier for authors, or has it gotten harder to be an author in today's climate?
I think it's easier to promote the materials. Once you create a book, it's easier to promote. But children's books, when it comes to children's books, writing for a living, I think this is a labor of love, and I haven't given up my professional career. Many of the writers that I meet have another career outside of their writing, because it takes a long time to generate awareness of your book and brand, even with the Internet and the math, with the publishers and everything. It just simply doesn't work.
What about you, Mimi?
Well, I don't know. I have never made a living writing. Running a school, writing is sort of comes naturally. During the course of the day, you have to. Labor of love is absolutely true. I love to write. And I find it difficult to market, though, because that's a job in itself. And when you have a lot of other projects, I think you almost have to be totally really try to make a living by writing. And it hasn't been my journey.
Great. Well, ladies, it is time for us to go to break. So I would like for you to remind our listeners, if you would please, what is the title of your book and where can we pick up a copy?
This is Belinda Barbieri, and the title of my book is Meet the Pops. It's available at Barnes & Noble, and it's on Amazon, and it's also available on BelindaBarbieriBooks.com.
The title of my book is The Bite Book. It's a preschool, strictly bite book. Dear Mom, Dear Dad, and I understand it's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, through any book shop.
All righty, listeners, now you know where you can pick up a copy of these books. We'll be back right after this.
Discovery. No, just a sec.
What would it look like if we listened more? Could the right voice, the right set of words, bring us all just a little closer? Get us to open up, even push us further? It could, if we took the time to listen. The most inspiring minds, the most compelling stories. Download Audible and listen for a change.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Chester. We are celebrating International Children's Book Day today, so happy reading to all of you out there who are listening. Go on and invite a little person into your life today and read them one book. You may make a difference in their lives. So the theme today is The Small is Big in a Book. And I have two children's book authors with me today, Mimi-Soes, who's the author of The Bite Book, and Belinda Barbieri, who is the author of Meet the Pops. And I am so excited to be picking their brains about being children's book authors. So, ladies, thank you so much for being on the show today and allowing me to talk to you not only about your books, but about your process of being an author. So my question to you is this. Is there a particular legacy that you've thought about that you want to leave behind when people talk about you in the future? What mark do you want to leave or have left on the world?
Well, Meet the Pops promotes family values, and that's very important to me, of course. But I do love to think of ways to get a chuckle out of people who read my books. I'm always trying to add humor in the books, and the kids really crack up when they learn about the cotton candy sheep or the strawberry and chocolate milk cows in the books. And they're just so playful and humorous, especially in book 3 where the cotton candy sheep are being naughty during Santa's visit. It's hilarious. And I think it's so important. These kids are put under so much pressure in school. You know, they're doing homework in kindergarten now, that it's wonderful to give them a release. And I love to make them really crack up, give them a good laugh. So as far as a legacy, I just want to be remembered as being kind-hearted and funny.
Absolutely, absolutely. What about you, Mimi? Any legacy in particular, anything that you would like for people to remember you and your books by?
Yeah, I know it's Children's Book Day, and all my life I've jotted down some of the experiences that I'm putting together, and maybe not, the legacy will be hopefully seeing that the world needs to become more tolerant, more understanding, more accepting, considerate, accept each other's ideas of faith, not argue all the time. I know that seems, it's all more. And that's what should show, what I'm hoping will show through to
Absolutely.
My little creations.
Now, ladies, when it came to getting your book illustrated, when it came to the illustrations of your book, was it difficult to explain your vision to the illustrator, or did you find that they were able to perhaps read like a draft of it, and between your version of your vision and what they were understanding was going on in the book, were you able to come to kind of common ground? What is the process, or how did the process play out for you when it comes to the illustration?
I love to write, but I can't draw, unfortunately, but I certainly admire those who can. And I usually write 3 to 4 paragraphs describing my vision of each illustration. And then once you begin to develop the characters, it gets easier and easier as long as you stick with the same illustrator. And I also try to help the illustrator using basic visuals. Like I might grab something from the internet. Like for my characters, I like big eyes and small noses.
Right.
And that was part of it.
How about you, Mimi?
Well, actually, I'm not bad in drawing. For me, it's a time constraint. You know, this is very time consuming. You can't do it all. But I have a godson who actually has a BA in fine arts and is very good at it. So I have no problem between the two of us here. We relate well. So that's easy for me.
Now, when it actually came time to get your idea out of your head and you're starting the process of writing your book, did you do it in a very kind of traditional way where you wrote it out longhand, or did you find that you used modern technology that was available and it was, I'm going straight to the computer, my laptop, or whatever? Did you kind of type out your book, or did you find that it was easier to write it out or jot down ideas as it came to you? What was your process with that?
I always use the computer. It's just easier. And I might have 5, 6 files in the beginning, but by the time I get to the end of the book, if I save everything, I will have like 200 for the one book.
Gotcha. How about you, Mimi?
Well, I'm used to making notes because all through my lifetime there were situations that, yes, I thought I absolutely had to remember them. And then, yes, I've used a computer. I have pages of longhand. I don't know what's going to happen to all this. I'm trying to put it all together. It's children's and adults as well. I have actually learned it. Used to do the same thing. A little notebook right on my nightstand, and I wake up sometimes, and you know, you have something to remember. So
absolutely,
you hope to put it all together.
And, you know, listeners, that is just a really great idea, because I know that that's one of the things that I tell my clients to do, especially if you're going through a particular something. And that particular something could be you are an author and you get an idea, or you're a musician and you're trying to write a song, or perhaps you're trying to get in tune with your inner entrepreneur and you're trying to create or, you know, invent something fun and exciting. There's nothing like having that journal or that tablet at your bedside table that you can just get up and write it down. Sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning, we're not so savvy. We think that we can do one of those audio notes on our phone, but, you know, sometimes you're a little too sleepy to hit the right button. So there's nothing like writing it down. That's a great reminder, Mimi, great reminder. Now, by chance, do either of you ladies happen to have a writing ritual? Is there something that must be done? You have to have your coffee or your tea, left corner, laptop center, you know, TV off, TV on, lights bright, dim. Do you have a particular ritual that must be just so in order for you to write, or are you just inspired to write whenever it happens?
I like to get up very early in the morning, even before the sun rises, and write. And then by the time I've had my coffee and the sun is starting to rise, I'm like, that's when my mind is fresh, right? And that's when I seem to do my best work. Then I head off to work at like 6:30 or 7 in the morning. So I'm really a morning person.
Well, we need some morning people in the world. Not everybody can be a night owl, so that's a really good thing. And surprisingly enough, I am a morning enough person. Like you can kind of carry on a conversation with me, but after I've had my first morning cup of coffee, God bless coffee beans, I'm right there with you. So I do understand, but there is something about that early morning, just a beautiful time when the earth is still a little bit quiet and all of the hustle and bustle hasn't gotten kind of stirred up for the day. I have to agree with you on that. What about you, Mimi?
Well, I never had the option of choosing. I worked night and day, sort of, and every time in between when I had a chance, and it still pretty much works this way. Sit down, writing actually itself comes easy. I mean, consider this is my second language, right? And, we had it in school, of course, but not, when I got here, I didn't understand a word. We had the Oxford, difference between. But I have always been into languages, so I just do what I have to do and try and hope for the best.
Absolutely. Now, by chance, do either of you ladies have any bit of advice for kids who love to write? Now, I'm talking, let's not just include kids. There may even be some teens out there that are starting to write, and they may even want to write a children's book. So do you have any advice for our young people who want to write?
I would say that, writing is really about telling stories, and stories come from your life experiences, right? So it's important to read and learn and study, but you also have to get out there and have some fun and try some different things, maybe get out of your comfort zone and figure out what you do and don't like to do, challenge yourself. And I mean, some kids who don't like to write, I think you have to encourage them to try and give them a little nudging. Even when they don't like it, they might like to tell stories, so that might get them started.
What about you, Mimi?
Well, yes, children that don't like to write first, they're just very shy sometimes, or rather have been embarrassed about one thing or another, so they are they don't have enough self-confidence. But we always tried, in my own experience with the kids, to be sure you write down as you see it, what you feel, what you think, and mainly what you believe in, and it can't go wrong. That's what it's all about. You have to give them enough self-confidence to, not to be embarrassed. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. The things that you believe in and feel and think about, and you can see results.
I love it. Well, listeners, I cannot believe that we are almost out of time, but I have so enjoyed interviewing these ladies today. My first guest was Belinda Barbieri. She's the author of Meet the Pops, a delicious family treat created to promote exemplary child behaviors at home, at school, and just about everywhere. I love it because she says that Meet the Pops is a sweet story meant to delight and educate the family, and you definitely need to pick up a copy of her book. My other guest is Mimi-Soes. She's the author of The Bite book, and we're talking about a book that's dedicated more towards the preschool age. The Bite book offers a seasoned childhood educator's view on children who bite, ways to prevent those behaviors, as well as encouragement for parents and teachers that need a little bit more understanding, awareness, cooperation, and patience along the way when helping children learn not to bite. Well, ladies, thank you so much for being on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela today.
Thank you so much. This was a pleasure.
Thank you.
And listeners, thank you for tuning in as well. I hope that you have enjoyed this International Children's Book Day. I know that I have enjoyed it as well. Each of these books is available on Amazon and where books are sold. Well, as always, may the Lord continue to shine His face upon you. May you receive His grace and His mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, be blessed in the Lord and have a great day. Bye-bye.